Morning, everybody. Hope you're all good. It's Friday. It's the 19th of April, 2024. We're here to take a look at the weather for the UK for the next week or so. Probably having a little sneaky peek up towards the end of the month. Right, well, let's start where we usually do. Take a look at the central England temperature. It's running at 10.8 to the 17th, 2.9 degrees above the long-term average, and that's fallen somewhat over the last few days. Excuse me, and that's all due to the fact that we are bringing in northerly breezes. And what I will now show you is I'll take a look at the temperature anomalies. This has been the case this week. High pressure has been to the west, low pressure to the east. And as mentioned, a run of northerly breezes is bringing below average temperatures. Note towards the far southeast of the screen, down towards southeast Europe, down towards the Black Sea. That's where all the warmth is at the moment. And if we just take a look at the jet stream, it picks it up quite well. So it's looping quite well, isn't it, across the Atlantic, dives down across the UK, bringing in the northerlies, and then goes down into the Med, and then loops back up towards Russia. And as you can see, across southeast Europe, you're on the warm side of that jet, hence the reason for the elevated temperatures. Right, not too much change over the course of the next few days. We'll just show you the facts chart. This is today. Rash of showers coming down today. Some cold fronts have pushed through overnight, maintaining that northerly flow. This weekend, there are some positive changes. The high pressure that is sitting to the west does transfer slowly eastward, so a lot of the showers will die out this weekend. And on Sunday, this is also the case. High pressure pretty much in control. However, just the chance that there'll be one or two fronts just starting to frisk the north of Scotland. And although milder up there, always the risk of a little bit more cloud and perhaps some drizzle. And just later on in the weekend, just notice how towards the southeast of the UK, we start to import more of a northeasterly feed, and that will be setting the scene for next week. So we'll just push that through. As you can see, by Monday, the high pressure has slightly retrogressed further northwestwards. Northeasterly breezes are starting to come in across the UK, and then by next week, the high is to the west. The low is out in towards the northeast of the UK, and we're starting to draw down more northerly breezes. So when we look at the temperature anomalies that we've seen this week, this is the case for the weekend. As I've mentioned, a bit of a warm up across Ireland and parts of Scotland this weekend, with air coming in more from a southerly or southwesterly direction. But by the middle of next week, what will happen is, you've guessed it, low pressure starting to influence the North Sea again, and those blues in association with the northerly breezes will be coming down, keeping us on the cool side. As a result, the jet stream will be pretty much in a position that will never be giving us anything particularly warm. Right, now we'll take a look at how the weather is going to play out for the next week before we take a look at those longer term trends. So today, as we've mentioned, quite a fresh northwesterly breeze today, with plenty of showers, particularly this afternoon across the more southern parts of the UK. They will clear overnight. And then, as I've mentioned, not too bad this weekend. This area of high pressure settles in across the UK to keep us largely dry and fine. But just towards the far north of Scotland, there's a weather front, and just towards the far southeast, always a little bit more in the way of cloud. As we push into Sunday, there you go, that high pressure is still in control, but just down towards the far southeast, we're starting to import more in the way of cloud and isolated showers potentially across the far southeast. And that troublesome weather front across the north of Scotland will be clearing out the way throughout the course of the day. Worth mentioning that in between, in this area of high pressure overnight, where the skies are clear and where the winds fall light, there is a frost risk for many parts of the UK away from coastal strips. Push into Monday, and what will happen is, as we've mentioned, that high pressure retrogresses slightly further west into the Atlantic. That weather front on Monday is allowed then to push down across the UK, returning us into that northerly regime again, more unsettled with more in the way of showers, and then just pushes through the course of Monday into Tuesday. The cold northeasterly breezes are back across the UK. Pretty much fine across many parts of Ireland, and I will say western parts of Scotland, but further east you'll always be under the influence of that low pressure in the North Sea towards Norway and the risk of afternoon showers. And then if we just fast forward this through to say Thursday and Friday. Well, there you go. Once again, more in the way of showers, perhaps some longer spells of rain across the south at times. And even as we push towards the end of next week, there you go. The high pressure is then replaced, you've guessed it by an area of low pressure to the west of the UK. Perhaps temperatures becoming slightly less cold or less below average by that point, but more in the way of showers. So yeah, it's an unsettled theme, but as I've mentioned, not too wet. This is the total precipitation in millimetres between now and the end of next week. So this is at midnight on Saturday the 27th. Many parts of Ireland pretty dry. Look at that, just 2 or 3 millimetres are likely to be falling, as is the case for many western parts of Scotland and perhaps the lakes. But further east, where you're under the influence of those, particularly those afternoon showers, another 15 to possibly 20 millimetres will be falling in the rain gauges in the next week. In terms of temperatures, so here is London, the 2 metre trends generally below average throughout. If you consider that we should now be close to 15 or 16 degrees by day, it takes right up until around about the 28th, 29th, possibly the 30th before we see those temperatures. So the below average trend continues. We move north towards Manchester. Well, there you go. It's again a similar trend, rather cool throughout, potentially just warming up a little bit towards the end of the month. And Inverness, well, as we've mentioned, less cold this weekend, quite mild up there. So a couple of pleasant days on Saturday and Sunday, although with rather more cloud. But as you can see, also across Inverness, temperatures do cool off next week before only slowly recovering towards the end of the month. So I hope that's given you all a little bit of insight as to the weather for the next week and the longer term trends. Suffice to say, rather cool. Frost risk this weekend under high pressure. But yeah, always sort of unsettled. Showers further east, west is best. Thanks for watching. I'll be back on Tuesday with the next thoughts. But in the meantime, ciao for now.